Hi, and welcome to Chief for Yourself. It's always great to have you along with us for this program, wherever you're listening in the world at this moment. The intention here is to keep flowing the good chi or essential energy as fuel for empowerment. Manifestations become a kind of a buzzword lately. Yes, it's great to learn. You can bring just about anything into your life, but how much legwork does that involve? And isn't the process a little bit tedious? Our guest today says your process of manifestation can really be enhanced by using your play personality, which will allow you to have more experiences that let work feel like play and will replace struggle with momentum, ease, and joy. Marney Makridakis is making her second visit to the program, actually. She was with us a couple years ago to talk about her book, Creating Time, and she's back with a book called Hop, Skip, Jump, 75 Ways to Playfully Manifest a Meaningful Life. And Marney, I can add to that a little bit about the 1,000 or so clever word plays, acronyms and such that you add to your writing. Do those kinds of snappy witticisms you put in the book come easily to you, he said enviously, or do you do what most of us do, write down anything on scraps of paper that you can find every time one pops into your head? How's that work for you?
Oh, what a great question. I do think that there is a way in which it does come easily to me. It's one of those things that, you don't realize because you've, done it all your life, or it is so natural, it's not something that, necessarily you realize until later that, sometimes our gifts are the things that we overlook. But that being said, I think that there are times definitely where, I work for it. There's a chapter where I talk about how a simple shift of a word, just changing a word that for whatever reason holds some negative energy or, holds a sense of struggle, turn it into a new word. And I say something along the lines of, here is my big reveal of my wordplay secret. I write down the letters of the alphabet and I go through the alphabet to find possible rhymes. And I kind of walk through it and I say, that's my big secret.
Okay.
And so it's very true, if the word is clutter, I will go through the alphabet, butter, clutter, dutter, futter, gutter, cutter, and keep looking. So I think it's a combination. There's a little bit of tweaking and then a little bit of a natural, organic, let it come out.
One of your plays on words is called the acro-whim for acronym. You say your son came up with one of these gems. I think it was planetarium, I believe it was.
Yes.
And what is he, like 8 years old?
No, he's only 6.
6?
And this is when I really started. He started doing wordplay when he could barely talk. He would get such a kick out of making, playing with words, and he got so delighted at it. And that's actually when I started to think, maybe there's something genetic about that. just before this interview, we just made an Amazon jungle out of Legos and blocks, and we were showing it to Daddy, and then my husband said, "Oh, well, I hope you'll make another one." And then Kai, my 6-year-old, beams and says, "The next one will be called Amazon Prime."
Whoa.
Like the website. And I was like, okay, there's my boy.
There you go. Beaming, she said. All right. The Western world has a pretty serious approach to productivity. See the goal, chase the goal, cliches everywhere, nose to the grindstone, no pain, no gain, money doesn't grow in trees. Now we hear about putting play into the mix. What's the thinking behind this process of hop, skip, and jump?
Well, I think that the idea is that when we want to create something, whatever it is we want to create in our lives, there are a lot of processes that we go through. And as you said, we tend to associate getting things done with being a lot of hard work. And play is something that really we don't tend to associate with productivity. We kind of think of them as opposites, that play is something that happens after we're productive. And yet when we bring a sense of joy and fun and play, that's different for all of us what that actually means. But when we can actually bring a play into whatever we want to accomplish or achieve, it makes the productivity so much more appealing. It makes the task at hand something that calls us in, and it also makes the play itself more meaningful. I think that, right now we're either in general, working hard in fight or flight mode, and we're really, our senses are on way overload. And so when we step away from that, we just kind of want to numb out and go into escapism. And meaningful play is what is being missed there. Sitting and playing Angry Birds, that's not play in a sense of meaningful play. So I really think that there's something that is very important about doing things that we enjoy and actually bringing those in, not just as the reward at the end of the hard day or the hard work week or the big career, but bringing it in more often, because I think when we have more fun, we do get more done.
Well, speaking of the big career, I know you work with entrepreneurs, and they're pretty high-powered people. When you bring this to them, are they kind of taken aback, or do they go with this right away? How's that work?
Well, it's interesting because I think I work with two main types of people that I seem to be attracted to me most. Either people who are very right-brained, very visionary, and they need the structure, they need a bit of those modular steps, and so I'm helpful in that because I can kind of speak their language and help them find that containment and that codification to make their dreams happen. And then on the other hand, I can work with extremely left-brained, linear entrepreneurs who are really feeling burnt out or stuck and need a little bit of that play or creativity in their life. And I think both of those types of people are attracted to my work because I really put it out there. I mean, I kind of go full volume on the playful approach. And so generally, if somebody comes to work with me, they're attracted to that for some reason, even if it's almost in a way like, what you do sort of repels me and attracts me. But I want to know what that is. Although I have certainly had opportunities to connect with people where, sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it's I think we're conditioned to feel like, what's the result? Where is the result in here? And it's often only when people start seeing the results that they say, oh, yeah, this does work. I'm about to teach a 5-week online course that I call Passionate Packages Tied Up with Strings. And it is literally writing an ebook or creating a new online product in the 5 weeks leading up to the holidays while we're singing holiday songs. And it sounds so crazy. And I've had people who've just signed up saying, I don't know what the heck this is, but it's so crazy it just might work. And it really does. And so, sometimes it's the proof is in experience. And so I hope that not just my book and my work, but play in general, I hope that the more people talk about their ways that they're playing and how that is sustaining their energy and keeping their motivation and momentum going, I hope that just sort of makes play something that is not only more palatable, but it's also more intriguing and exciting out there in the productive workplace.
Well, we all know people who can't quite loosen up, so to speak. Is there a reliable way to sort of jumpstart the process to get into that spirit of play?
One of the things that I think is really helpful, actually, two things. One is looking back to childhood and thinking back to favorite toys. And it sounds a little corny, it sounds a little funny, but if you ask anybody, anybody, even somebody who really, as you say, does have a hard time loosening up, if you get them really talking about what they enjoyed to do as a kid, that can give some really good hints on where there's a play portal. In the book, I talk about portals to play. What are those little entry points that make it easy for us to step into play? Play is not an activity, it's a state of mind. And I think going back to those things that we love to do as kids, it's a great way to give some clues of, what is that? Is it about moving my body? Is it about an imagination game? Is it a particular toy that might have some kind of metaphorical significance to me right now? And I think the other way to get a hint of where that play portal might be is to go in the future and think, the old question of, well, what do you want to do when you retire? When you're done, when you don't have the responsibilities that you do right now, what do you want to do then? And just allowing ourselves to think in that way can start us seeing, well, what's really important to us? What are our play values? Because I think that that's kind of where we need to start. I think it's not just a matter of, okay, here's one activity to go do. It's about saying, okay, well, what is a sense of play mean to me? And I think both doing some time traveling backward and forward, both ways can give us some clues about that.
If we're going to feel playful, at some point we have to give ourselves permission to feel playful. But in our society, we don't seem to be that free with the permission. What keeps society as a whole from allowing us to be more playful?
I think that it's a value piece. I think that that there's a tremendous sense of value that is placed, again, on hard work and an old belief system that equates hard work with success and equates the admiration of those who we hold in high regard with people who have worked hard. And I think there's an association with play is lazy. Play equals laziness, or play equals frivolity. That, play perhaps by its very nature means that there's nothing that comes from it. So I think a lot of it comes from old ideas. Interestingly, right now, as you sort of hinted at the beginning, more corporations, big businesses are starting to see the value of play. I think the whole IT industry has been really, even starting with the boom in Silicon Valley a little while ago, adding some elements that to their team development practices and their employee wellness programs. There are some real innovative things that are happening that on the one hand seem so cutting edge, and on the other hand, it just seems so obvious. And I think that as we're seeing that results, again, as we see the results come from play, I think that will allow it to be valued more. And I think that we just need to talk about it more, that we need to talk about what we enjoy and what we're doing that does not feel like hard work. What if you came up to somebody at a social event and asked them, what do you do for a living? What if you asked, what do you do for fun? And if that became more part of our cultural dialogue, I think that would make a huge difference.
At the outset of Hop, Skip, Jump, you say that manifesting comes down to momentum. Talk about what we mean by momentum in this case.
Momentum is simply what moves us is what moves us. Such a simple phrase, and I use it all the time. And really what that means is what moves us emotionally is what moves us into action. And whenever we're trying to create something in our lives, the longer that we stay stuck, the harder it is to get back into momentum. And we all have examples of this that we have experienced. The longer that we go without going to the gym, the harder it is to jump back in. And looking at really keeping momentum going, part of how Hop, Skip, Jump is organized is breaking down the manifestation process into 3 phases, and they are called Hop, Skip, and Jump. And each one has its own kind of momentum, and it's about paying attention to the value of each of these steps. The hop phase is that phase of dreaming, envisioning, brainstorming, researching, planning, really seeing the fullness of an idea. And the skip phase is about trying new things and experimenting and exploring. And the jump phase is about consciously moving into action, consciously going into a mode of action taking. And all 3 of these phases really work together, and they all create momentum. And I think that beginning with a sense of, okay, which of these places and these gestures is most natural for me, we can start to see how effective we really are and can be as manifestors, and how we can then build upon our strengths to create even more momentum, so that when we do get stuck or overwhelmed or feel resistance, we can get out of that more quickly. That's what momentum means. That's what it means to say simply, what moves us is what moves us.
While I was reading the book, I took the little test at the beginning, and I found myself largely in the hop phase, though I do venture into skip territory more often than I realize. But getting into the jump step, that's a little more daunting. I guess that's pretty common, isn't it? To the take action part would be a little, a little more skittish.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I think that one thing that's been really neat about getting the quiz out there is that some people are really surprised by the results, and also can see more and more of the benefits behind their strengths. I love that you have a natural strength in hop and skip. I'm a natural jumper, which is great in terms of taking action. And yet, it's when I personally apply more hop into creating a foundation, that's when I'm more successful. And there actually are a lot of people who are jumpers, but, and I'll put myself in this category, naturally, we tend to jump in so quick that when our results don't perhaps match what we were hoping, it's easy to get discouraged. And that's why it's really helpful for somebody like me or for a jumper to spend some time and energy and play in the hop and skip stages. And so I think it's really important that of these three phases, there's not a hierarchy of best or worst or most helpful. The goal isn't to get to the jump phase for everyone. I think the goal is to find more balance throughout and look at our tasks and our actions with an eye for all three of these phases. I think ideally, if our days, if our weeks are full of playful activities that allow us to touch each of these energetics, the hop, the skip, the jump, that's where we're creating a fuller picture of what we bring to our projects and our dreams and how we accomplish them.
So it's not just about getting to the jump phase. There's a place for hop with ideating and daydreaming, I guess, is where you would do something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, hop really includes it's the daydreaming and the visioning, and it's also the planning and thinking through what do we really want. And what might that look like? And sometimes, brainstorming and just, as you said, just daydreaming, thinking about it, being with an idea. There's a huge place for that. And I think that people who are very strong in that area can tend to disregard the importance of that. And they kind of will come up with this self-belief that, oh, I'm a person who doesn't take action, instead of really valuing, wow, I'm a person who really loves to dream. I'm a person who loves to get lost in ideas, and that means I think things through, and that means I'm creating amazing foundations. And just shifting that belief and feeling like, yeah, I've got some great stuff here. I think that can open to more possibility. Part of the problem with our inability sometimes to act or to complete, it's the beliefs that we have about ourselves. And as long as we're thinking things like, oh, I never take action, then, of course, we're just perpetuating that. So there's definitely a place for hopping, definitely a place for skipping. That's the dabbling and meandering and window shopping in life. That's the place where momentum really is built, because there can be so much excitement in following what you want to do. In the skip phase, if something isn't flowing and you're not having fun, do something else. It's a wonderful place where you can be fully allowed and have permission to try something else. If the energy isn't there, look for what else has some heat and follow that. So both the hop and the skip stages really bring a lot to the whole piece. And I think if you look at anything that you've ever accomplished in your life, I think you can look and see where each of these phases is represented. Granted, you probably spent more time in one of those phases than the other, but if you look at something that's been manifested successfully, you can see that there are elements of hop, skip, and jump that have been at play. And on the converse, if you look at places where you have not manifested something successfully or it has not come to completion yet, I think it's usually very easy to see one or more of these phases that hasn't really been attended to. I think it's a really simple way to accept the full cycle of manifestation and what we can bring to it.
Is there any such thing as a time limit for any one of these phases? I mean, is there at some point at which you say, well, you know, you're kind of stuck in one of these and maybe you could move on to the next?
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't put a quantitative label on it. You know, you remember from creating time that sometimes quantitative time limits can be helpful.
You turned that on its head. Yeah, right. I
remember, exactly. So, you know, but I do think there is a time limit and a qualitative time limit. And I'm hoping that one thing, that's really one of my wishes for this book, is that it can be a gentle encouragement to go to some of those other places. I have loved hearing, I mean, the book just came out recently, but I have loved hearing from people who have said, you know, I hopped open that jump section. There are 25 techniques or ideas for each of the sections. I've heard people say, you know, I opened that and I just, you know, picked one. And wow, I did something that I have put off for years and years and years because it was funny and silly and easy the way you did it. I think above everything, this is an idea book. My hope is that with 75 ideas that you can literally open the book to any page when you're feeling stuck, and that it will move you. Because I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that, and certainly when I work with clients, that's part of my role is to kind of nudge out of when there are stuck places. And I really hope that the book is, you know, kind of like that feisty little little guide in your pocket that helps you move into some places that may not be comfortable, but because you're having so much fun and it seems perhaps a little silly and ridiculous, maybe you won't even notice that you're getting into something uncomfortable.
Well, you have some cool downloadable stuff for readers too. I like the ABC blocks. ABC in this acro whimsical case means actions, beliefs, choices. They're sort of a collection of tactile affirmations, and you actually play with them.
Yeah, you know, one thing that I think is a great way to play is that when we find ourselves using, you know, saying the same words over and over, we can actually take our words literally and see, you know, what's here. And so one of the things, of course, with creative people is, you know, you hear about writer's block, creative's block, and then, you know, you also can hear about yoga teacher's block or clean in the kitchen block. You know, we all have blocks. And so I think a fun way to take those words literally is to play with our blocks. And so, yeah, by taking affirmations and beliefs and choices, we can take a to-do list and actually turn it into an interactive toy that can sit on a desk or a counter, and we can manipulate cues and mix and match our actions, beliefs, and choices. And this is something that's really powerful. There's something about taking our next action into your own hands literally and playing around with it with the accompanying beliefs and choices. Silly, easy, but quite powerful. Sometimes, you know, not only is the to-do list a little heavy, sometimes even the affirmations can get a little weighted or a little heavy. And it's a little hard to take yourself too seriously when you're playing with blocks.
One final question, and I like to ask this of most of our guests. If there is one point to take away from the book, what would you like readers to remember as they go into this play process? What should they remember?
I think that what I would most like somebody to remember about this process is that play is it's right there. You don't have to work hard to play. The last thing that I want this book to be is something that, okay, well, here's another way I need to improve myself, you know, another book on the self-improvement shelf. That play is very simple, and it's easy to have more fun. It can be as easy as wearing bright colored socks to just make you smile. It can be as easy as taking a walk and in the middle of a busy day and looking for a couple of rocks or stones and building a house from little cricket and leaving it there. Play can be really easy, and I'm hoping that with a book like this, you can come away with knowing, all right, I have a place where I can go, open up a page, and it'll give me something easy to do that I can do in 5 minutes, and it will, at the very least, shift my attitude. If we take a 5-minute break and go make a doodle or write a haiku poem or take a walk outside, at the very least, the snow globe of our emotions will be shaken up a little bit and we come back to the task at hand with a different energy. So I hope that people come away feeling like they have a toolbox, or I should say a play chest, a toy box of things to play with, and the more that they work with these tools that I've offered as starting points, that they'll come up with their own.
And your website is Tellerland.com. You call that a community, a web community. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it is early on when creative communities were really just being started, and 12 plus years ago, I created a land online. At the time, I was living in a really rural place and wanted to connect up with artists and writers and put together some collaborations. And I thought, wow, here we have this new resource with the internet, except it's hard to, how do you find artists and writers? And so that's really how our Tellerland began, was a community where artists and writers could find one another and create collaborations. And then since then, it's really grown to include all kinds of services and connections and projects for creative people of all kinds. I call it the enchanting islands, because when you visit the site, you sort of feel like you're in a land. I had another interviewer recently say it almost looks like a illustrated children's fairy tale. And yes, that's the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the idea. It's a little place to get lost and perhaps to get found. So I invite anybody to take a stroll on over there.
The book is Hop, Skip, Jump, 75 Ways to Playfully Manifest a Meaningful Life, from Marney Makridakis. Marney, thanks for giving us the fresh look and fun look at the sometimes mundane task of manifesting. Don't be a stranger. Come back, visit us again. You're always welcome here.
Oh, so appreciate it. Thank you.